Hi everybody, I'm Ryan, and in today's practice we're going to focus on the shoulders, and we're going to get an opportunity to work toward a handstand. So we won't necessarily need any props today, but if you want to grab usual props like blocks or a blanket, go ahead and grab those and we'll get started. Alright, so we're going to start the practice in reclined. So go ahead and come onto your back. And we're just going to take a few breaths to settle. So you can bring some attention to your body and just notice what you feel. And bring some attention to your breath. And we'll just take a couple more breaths. And we're going to start to bring a little bit of movement back to the body. And we're going to start with bridge pose today. So knees hip width apart, a few inches of space between your hips and heels, maybe where you can just barely touch your heels with your fingertips. And then we'll start to press into the feet and lift up into bridge. So as always with this pose, I like to focus on the front of the hip joints. Think about opening up there. You might also think about kind of tucking the tailbone. And next exhale, we'll slowly lower back down. Good. And we're going to set up for a single leg bridge. So let's bring our right foot toward the middle. And as always, I'm going to mirror and do the opposite side, even though we're on the side right now. But right foot toward the middle, and we're going to lift back up again, keeping that right foot planted, and then we'll lift the left leg up. And you can lift that leg however you want. So you can have your knee bent, knee straight, whatever works for you. But again, open up on the front of that right hip. Good, and let's lower it back down and set up for the other side. So left foot toward the middle, we'll lift back up and then lift the right leg. So again, get as much hip extension as you can. Open up the front of that left hip. Good, and then we'll lower back down, bring everything back to center, and we're gonna move into a little bit of core strength. So let's bring hands behind the head. And each time we exhale on these core exercises, think about the rib cage drawing in toward the center of your body, front of the body pulling down toward the spine. Point your elbows up toward the ceiling. And let's go ahead and lift the legs. Again, you can have knees bent, knees straight, whatever you want to do. As we exhale, we'll start to lift the head up. And then we're going to turn to the right and reach our left hand to the outside of the legs. Bring that hand back to your head. Come back to center and lower the head down. And we'll do that same thing on the other side. So exhale to lift up. Turn to the left. Reach your right arm to the outside. Good, back to center, hand to the head, lower the head down. We're going to keep the legs lifted, but we're going to do some movement for them. So you could keep your hands on your head, or you can bring arms down beside the body. We're just going to be moving the legs. So you'll start to lower that right heel towards your mat, but don't let your back arch. Don't let the ribs flare up. And then bring the leg back up. Same thing, other leg. Left heel goes down toward the mat, and then lifts back up. We'll do that a couple more times. If you want to, you could lift your head here. That kind of helps engage the core a little bit more. Good. So one more with that left leg. And then we'll lower the feet back down. And we'll make our way over to tabletop. Once you've found your tabletop, you can move through a few rounds of cat and cow. With your exhales, rounding your back for cat pose. And with your inhales, extending the spine, arching up, cow pose. Just continue to move with your breath. And think about bringing movement to every part of your spine. And let's do one more of each. And then we'll come back to center, finding that straight line along your back. And let's warm up the wrists a little bit here. So maybe walk your hands back just a little bit, like an inch or two. So the wrists are a little bit behind your shoulders. And then shift forward. And then shift back. We'll do that a couple times. And as you're shifting forward, create a little bit of energy in your hands. So maybe think about pushing into your fingertips and kind of lever back with your hands. Like, so as you're shifting back again, think about doing that by pushing into your fingertips. Good. So next time you shift back, you can walk the hands back to just your standard tabletop setup, and we're going to warm up the legs a little bit. So let's step our right leg out to the side. So from the other angle, we're just stepping that leg out to the side, and then we're going to shift the hips back, bringing that stretch to the inner thigh, and then we'll shift forward again. We'll do that a few times. So as you're shifting back, make sure you're not rounding your low back too much, even if it means you're not shifting back as far. Good. So next time we shift forward, we'll bring that right knee back in under the hip, and we'll switch to the left side. So left foot steps out. And again, we're just going to shift toward the back. And do that a few times. All right, so next time you shift forward, go ahead and bring that left knee back in under the hip. And we're going to make our way into downward facing dog. So as always, we have options. Basic option is just tuck the toes, lift the knees, lift the hips. Another option would be to find blocks under your hands, or even have hands on a chair. And we'll take a few breaths here. Feel free to walk out the legs, maybe shift the hips from one side to the other. Good. And let's start to walk our feet toward the hands, coming into forward fold near the top of your mat. And keep a little bend in your knees, press into the soles of your feet, and come all the way up to stand. As you come up, you can lift your heart, reach up, get the palms together, exhale, hands down to your heart. Next inhalation, let's reach the arms up again. And as we breathe out, we'll dive back to forward fold. And we'll get the fingertips planted either on your mat or your blocks. We're going to step our right foot back and lower the right knee to the mat. If you're on a hardwood floor or tile or something, you might want to find something to cushion under your right knee. So once you've got that set up, go ahead and come upright and we'll reach the arms up. Opening up the front of your right hip. And noticing the shoulders here as we're reaching up. Think about the shoulder blades going up toward the ears. All right, so we're going to keep the arms extended, but instead of reaching up, we're going to reach forward. And we're going to work on our scapular protraction and retraction a little bit. So to retract the scapula, let's pull back, kind of bend the elbows, squeeze the shoulder blades together, and then protract, reach forward. And as you get toward the front, really let the shoulder blades move forward. Let's do that one more time each way. So retracting and then protracting. Good. And then back to center. So let's find cactus arms, goalpost arms. So elbows bent, arms upright now. And as we exhale, we're going to turn to the left. And as we come into this twist, stay aware of that protraction, retraction, and try to stay neutral in both shoulders. So in that right shoulder in particular, it might be trying to protract to kind of push you around more into that twist, but try to keep it in the middle. Good, let's come back to center. We'll get the hands planted and we'll switch the legs. So we'll end up with that left knee down, right foot forward. And again, we'll start by inhaling to reach up. Take a few breaths. Open the front of the left hip. Good. So again, we're going to keep the arms extended, reach forward, but this time we're going to do one arm at a time with our protraction, retraction. So let's take right arm forward into protraction and then pull back into retraction. We'll keep the elbows straight this time. Let's do that one more time with the right arm. Reach it forward by gliding the shoulder blade forward and then pull back. Good. And then left arm. So reaching forward, protract, and then pull back, retract. One more time each way. Good. And then again, we're going to come into cactus arms, goalpost arms, elbows straight out to the sides, tall spine. As we breathe out, we're going to turn to the right. Again, focusing on keeping the shoulder blades kind of in that neutral position, particularly that left shoulder blade. Good. Let's come back to center. We'll get the hands back down to the mat. Step the left foot up to meet the right, so you're back in forward fold. And you can keep a little bend in your knees, press into the soles of your feet, come all the way back up to stand, and reach up, lift the heart, get the palms together, and exhale, hands down to your heart. Good. Next, inhale, let's reach up again. As we breathe out, we'll dive back to forward fold. Again, we'll get the fingertips planted, and let's step our left foot back. So we're coming into warrior two. I'm starting with the left side just to make it a little easier to see on the first round. So coming up into warrior two, open up toward the long edge of your mat, reach in front to back. And let's notice the shoulders again here. We're just gonna lift the shoulders up toward the ears, scapular elevation, and then relax the shoulders down away from the ears, scapular depression. And do that one more time. Hunching the shoulders up, and then relaxing them down. Okay, we'll turn the right palm up, reach that arm overhead and toward the back. Reverse warrior. And we're gonna flow right back down to the mat for a low twisted lunge. So you can just cartwheel the hands down, left hand lands under the shoulder. Use a block under that hand if you want to. And then we'll turn to the right, reach that right arm up if you like. And notice your left shoulder here. Keeping that scapula kind of pulled down into scapular depression so that left shoulder is stable. Good, let's bring the right hand back down. And we'll step the left foot forward and take the right foot back. So we're gonna come into warrior two on the other side. And let's just go ahead and flow into it, lifting that left arm up and back, reverse warrior. And then we'll just flow straight through warrior two into that low lunge. Getting the right hand planted under the shoulder, block if you want it, and then turn to the left, come into your twist. Again, check in with that right shoulder. If it's coming up toward the ear, kind of pull that shoulder down a little bit. All right, and let's get that left hand back down. And we'll step the right foot up. So we're back in forward fold. Press into the soles of your feet and lift all the way back up. Lift the heart and reach up. Get the palms together. Exhale, hands down to your heart. Next inhalation, reach up again. And as we exhale, dive to forward fold. We'll get the hands planted, and we're gonna step both feet back to come into a plank. And we're gonna lower all the way down to the mat. I apologize in advance if this makes a lot of noise with the microphone, but we're gonna come all the way down to the belly, and we're gonna basically mimic a handstand position, kind of practice it here before we try it in an upright position. So we're gonna reach the arms overhead and kind of push forward through your palms as if you're pushing into a wall, or if you're close to a wall, maybe just shift to that wall so you can actually push into it. Do that same action with your legs. So reaching back through your toes, and I'm gonna drop my head to show the proper position. We wanna have the ears in line with the arms. And holding in that position for a few more breaths. Squeeze the glutes, press the pubic bone toward the mat, lift the belly up away from the mat to engage the core a little bit more. Do that for a few more breaths. And then you can start to relax. We'll bring the hands under the shoulders, pull the shoulder blades down, tuck the toes under. I'm gonna press back up and come into downward facing dog. So from down dog, we're gonna step our right foot forward just a little bit. So a few inches, so that right foot's a little closer to the middle of your mat. And then we're gonna lift the left leg up for three-leg dog. And then we're gonna start to lift the right heel and lower it. So just doing some calf raises. And then to build on that, if you wanna add a little hop, you can do that. And then of course, if you want to, you can switch the legs. If you weren't switching the legs in midair, go ahead and switch to your left foot and plant that left foot kind of near the middle and do a few calf raises. All right, so let's let both feet come down. We'll just walk them to the front for forward fold. And let's take a couple breaths in forward fold. And as you're ready, you can press into the soles of your feet, come all the way up to stand. We'll lift the heart and reach up. Get the palms together and exhale, hands down to your heart. Take a couple breaths. And let's do one more round of sun salutation. So we'll inhale to reach up again. And then exhale, forward fold. We'll get the hands, fingertips planted, and let's step both feet back. Come into your plank. And we'll take a couple breaths in plank. Next exhale, let's lift the hips. Downward facing dog. And we're gonna practice our handstand hops one more time. So same thing we did on the last round, just another time, another opportunity to do it. So let's start with the left foot toward the middle of the mat this time. And we'll lift the right leg for three-leg dog. And again, we'll start doing those calf raises, just kind of shifting forward, moving that weight into your hands. If it's feeling pretty good, you could try hopping, getting a little air time. If you get enough air time, try switching the legs. Another thing we could do here is kind of set up with our back toward the wall. That way we don't have to worry about going, heels overhead. If you hadn't been doing mid-air hop switches, go ahead and switch to that right foot. Do a few calf raises. Good. Let's let both feet come back to the mat. Walk it into your hands, forward fold. And take a few breaths. All right, as you're ready, press into the soles of your feet. Come all the way back up. We'll lift up, reach up, get the palms together, and exhale, hands down to your heart. And when you're ready, you can release the hands down, shake it out a little bit. So we're gonna kind of keep the energy going, and instead of doing another round of sun salutation, we're gonna do moon salutation, or at least my version of it. It may not be exactly the same as the traditional version. But we're gonna start facing toward the long edge of the mat, kind of on the right side. And then we're gonna inhale to reach the arms up. And as we exhale, we're gonna side bend to the left. And you can have your hands apart or together. And then we'll come back up to center and exhale to bend to the right. Come back up to center, keep the arms reaching overhead. We're gonna take a big step out with our left foot. So we're in a wide stance squat. And as we inhale, we're gonna straighten the knees and elbows, turn to face toward the left, turn those left toes to pivot out. So we're set up for triangle pose. Reaching forward, and then bring that hand down to your leg, line up through the right arm. From our triangle, we're gonna add in a pyramid pose. So we're just gonna circle that right arm down, square the hips toward the mat, keeping the legs straight for a second. Use blocks under your hands if you want to. And then we're gonna let both knees bend. We're gonna bring that right knee down to the mat for a low lunge. Once you've got your legs set, you can come upright and reach up with the arms. As we exhale, we'll get the hands back down. Bring that left hand to the inside of the leg. And we're gonna go into a side lunge. So opening up toward the long edge of your mat, left knee bent. Of course, you can do this in like a low side lunge, kind of like I'm doing, or you could be up higher with hands on blocks even. And then we're gonna shift over to the right side. Side lunge with the right knee bent. And then we're gonna turn and face the front of the mat again, getting the hands across the long edge, pivoting into low lunge. Inhaling to reach up. And then we'll exhale, float the hands down, reverse into pyramid pose. So keeping everything square to the short edge. Now lift both knees and straighten both legs. And then from here into triangle. So you can get that right hand planted on your leg and lift that left arm to open toward the long edge. Good, and then coming upright, you can bend that right knee and then bend the left knee for a wide stance squat. Bend the elbows. And then we're gonna hop off of the right foot. So you can kind of lean to that right foot, push off. So we're on the left side and reach the arms up. And let's just flow straight into the next round. So we're gonna side bend to the right as we exhale. Inhale up to center. Exhale, side bend to the left. Inhale back to center, reach up with the arms. We're gonna take a big step out with the right foot, back into our wide stance squat. Good, as we inhale, we're gonna straighten legs and arms. We're gonna pivot to face toward the right, right leg straightens, and we're going into triangle pose. So reaching forward and plant that right hand, line up through the left arm. Left arm is going to stay reaching out, but we're going to circle down toward the mat to come into pyramid pose. So feel free to shift that left foot. Feel free to use blocks under your hands. Even feel free to bend that right knee a little bit if you need to. Good, and then we're gonna let both knees bend. Left knee comes down to the mat. Inhale to reach up, low lunge. And as we exhale, we're gonna get the hands down and we're gonna bring that right arm to the inside of the leg and pivot toward the long edge of the mat for low lunge. And then we're gonna shift to the left, bend into that left knee for left side low lunge. And then we're gonna circle the hands around to the back, pivot, set up for low lunge again. When you're ready, inhale to reach up. And then exhale, float the hands down, setting up for pyramid. So again, you could use blocks if you want to. We're gonna lift and straighten both knees. And then back into triangle. Left hand can plant on your leg or a block. You can pivot that right foot out to the side a little bit. And then lift up with the right arm to open. Good. And then lowering that right arm down. Bend the knees to come back to your wide stance squat. And we're gonna shift a little to that left foot, kind of load the weight into that left leg, push off of it, step to the right. We'll inhale to reach up and side bend to the left. Back up to center, exhale to side bend to the right. Back to center. And as we exhale, we'll release the arms down. All right, so we're gonna do a couple more things standing. We're gonna do our shoulder cars, controlled articular rotations next. So we can just find mountain pose or just any way to stand that you like. And we're gonna start with the left arm and we're gonna internally rotate the shoulder. So upper arm's kind of turning inward. And then we're gonna start reaching that arm backward and kind of toward the middle, like you're trying to reach behind your back with a straight arm. And then start lifting it up. Let the shoulder rotate freely as you lift up. Kind of making a big circle, tracing the edges of your shoulder joint. So as we start getting toward the top, we're gonna go into external rotation. So we're reaching across the chest to make that circle bigger, and the upper arm is turning outward. Good, we're gonna keep that external rotation at the bottom and go again. So reaching back. And again, as the arm starts to lift up behind you, let it rotate however it wants to. But then as we get toward the top, we're gonna go back to that internal rotation. Upper arm turning inward as we kind of reach across and down. Good. So let's do that same thing with the right arm. Start an internal rotation. Start moving the arm backward and kind of pull it toward the midline, keeping the elbows straight. And as you start lifting up, just let it rotate however it needs to do. And thinking about tracing the edges of your shoulder capsule. So making as big of a circle as you can. And going into external rotation as the arm comes down. Good, so keep that external rotation and go through your circle again, reaching back. As the arm starts to lift up, kind of let it rotate however it needs to rotate to come overhead. And then as you're getting into that overhead position, start thinking about internal rotation. Good. So you can just relax, shake it out a little bit. And we're gonna do a little bit of balance work going into tree pose. So you can stand next to a wall if you want to for a little extra stability, or have a hand on a chair or something like that. We're going to find our mountain pose again. And let's come back to that handstand position that we did when we were laying on the mat a few minutes ago. So we're going to bring the arms overhead again and just kind of reach up and push up through your palms and root down into the soles of your feet. Squeeze the glutes, engage your core, create as much length as you can. Good, and then hold that shape, but let the arms come down. And then we'll move into tree. So let's start with the right leg, and we'll lift the left leg up. You can place that foot wherever you want it. And same for your arms. You can take the arms wherever you like. You can even come back to that handstand position here and kind of push up through the palms and root down into your foot. You can notice your eye gaze, find that steady focal point. And you can notice your breath and smooth it out. And as you're ready, you can start coming out of your tree pose, back to your mountain pose. If you need to shake it out a little bit, you can do that. All right, so one more time before we jump into tree on the other side, let's reach up with the arms and push with the palms, root down into the soles of the feet, find that handstand position. So we're trying to, for me, it's kind of like we're taking out some of the extension in the spine. So as you reach up, kind of to create that extra length, maybe depending on where you were starting, you might end up kind of tucking the tailbone to get a little extra length along your back. Good. So we'll let the arms float back down, but kind of hold that energy that you created and shift into your left leg. We'll bring the right foot up and place it wherever you want it to go. And again, you can find whatever arm position you like. Come back to that handstand one more time if you want to, or find anything else that you like. Let's take one more breath. You can start to release, shake it out a little bit. All right, so let's find our mountain pose one more time. And as you inhale, you can reach the arms up. And as you breathe out, slowly move into forward fold. And we'll take a couple breaths in forward fold. And from here, we're going to make our way straight over to reclined. So you can come onto your back again. And from here, we're going to move into figure 4 stretch. So we're going to cross our right ankle over our left knee. And you can bring the legs in toward the body till you start to feel that stretch on your right hip. And you can thread that right arm through to grab onto the left leg if you want to. And we're going to keep our legs crossed, but we're going to let that left foot come down onto the mat. And then we're going to let the legs kind of fall over to the left side to come into a twist. As always, you can listen to your body. If you want to kind of, shift your hips toward the right a little bit, you can do that. If you'd prefer to not have that ankle crossed over, you can do that. Might feel good to reach out with that right arm and take your eye gaze to the right. Let's take one more breath here. And as you inhale, you can start coming back to center. You can uncross the legs. And we'll do that same thing on the other side. So left ankle over right knee, and then pull the legs in until you get the right amount of stretch on your left hip. And we're going to keep our legs crossed, but let that right foot come to the ground. And then we're going to let the legs move over toward the right side. I'm just going to fall to the right side to come into that twist. Again, feel free to take any variation you want to take. One more breath. You can uncross the legs and come back to center. And we're going to come back to that handstand position that we've been doing throughout the practice one more time here in reclined. So bring your arms overhead, reach up through your palms, reach down through your toes, create as much length as you can on both the front and the back of the body. And then we're going to stay in this extended position and move into banana pose. So to move into that pose, we're just going to walk both hands and both feet over to the right side. So we're kind of creating an open curve, a stretch on the left side of the body. A few options for this pose. If you want to create more stretch on the shoulder, down the side of the body, the rib cage, you can pull on that left arm with your right hand a little bit, just to kind of bring it into a little more lengthened position. And if you want more stretch kind of on the lower part in the hip, you can cross that left ankle over your right. And we'll just take a few deep breaths. One more breath. And as you inhale, start coming back to center. And bring the arms down beside the body for a second if you want to. And one more time, we're going to reach the arms overhead. Push out through the palms, reach down through your toes. Find equal length on the front and the back of the body. And then start walking both hands and both feet toward the left to open that right side. Again, you can pull on the right arm if you want to. Option to cross that right ankle on top. We'll take a few breaths. Let's take one more breath. And we can bring everything back to center. Bring the arms down beside the body. And let's bring the knees up toward the chest. And we'll move into happy baby pose. We'll take a few breaths here. Let's bring the knees back in toward the chest one more time. And as you're ready, you can release the legs down. And we've arrived at our final relaxation pose, Shavasana. So we'll give about 5 minutes here. If you want to take longer Shavasana, you can of course pause the video. And I'll be quiet for the next few minutes, and then we'll close together. over the next few breaths, and start to bring your attention back to your mat, back to your room. And start to deepen your breath. Bring a little bit of movement back to your body. And as you're ready, you can roll to your side. And from there, make your way back to seated. Thank you for joining me today. Thanks for sharing your practice with me. Hope to see you again soon. Namaste.